Again, good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It is Monday evening, a little after 6, and we'll go ahead and get started with our session. On yesterday, we pretty much had a single question that kind of dominated the conversation, looking at what it meant to be submissive to your husband and kind of trying to unfold that a little. So that's where we were there, and we'll see if we have any questions on anything else that may have grabbed your attention on that, or any other comments or questions you may have. Please feel free.
Well, I wasn't on yesterday, Ron, but if somebody got a question about yesterday, I'll wait and ask mine, because I had talked to Reverend Richards about it this morning, and he was going to look at it some more for this evening. So I'll wait till he come on.
Okay.
I am on already.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kath. I appreciate you doing that. Do we have any questions from yesterday's discussion before we move to another topic? Okay. The floor is yours, Kathy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Isaiah, the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 2. Isaiah, the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 2. And it says, a shoot will come out of the stock of Jesse, and a branch out of his roots will bear fruit. The Lord's Spirit will rest on him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might. Wait a minute, phone, wait, let me slide it back over. Okay, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. And I was asking Reverend Richards to explain to me about the shoot. He explained to me about the shoot and out of the stock of Jesse. So I wanted what was the spiritual significance of the shoot, the stock, the branch, and the roots.
What this scripture is talking about is the coming of the Messiah, and it's talking about the Messiah will come through the seed of Jesse. David was the root of the stump of Jesse, and I'm sorry, the shoot of Jesse rather. And when it went on to describe the one who will come through that is talking about the Messiah according to the translations from the original text. And what it does, if you read verse 3, he will be imbued with a spirit of fear for Hashem, and will not need to judge by what his eyes see, nor decide by what his ears hear. He will judge the destitute with righteousness and decide with fairness for the humble of the earth. So what he's saying is that Jesus will not, the Messiah, let me put it that way, and I'll tell you why in a moment. The Messiah will not have to make decisions based on what his eyes see or what his ears hear, because he will be making decisions based upon what he sees with the third eye and what he hears in his soul. His hearing and his seeing will be totally spiritual. And he when he talks about judging with righteousness, it's talking about that Jesus will not judge based on politics or ethnicity, history, or any of that. It will be based upon righteousness. And he will be fair to everyone, even the humble ones in the earth, meaning that it doesn't mean whether you're rich or poor, that he's going to be fair in his judgments or in the decisions that he makes. Okay, does that help you, Kathy?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, now, let me explain why I changed it from Jesus to the Messiah. The reason I changed it is because it is speaking of Jesus. However, Jesus said, if you believe as I believe, not only will you do what I've done, but greater things than these you shall do. So in order to do that, you have to be messianic also. You have to have the same attributes that Jesus had, and those attributes are found primarily in this 11th chapter of Isaiah. Any questions about that? Comments?
Attributes. You know which verse that is?
The attribute, everything you read in here is Jesus.
Okay.
This is what Jesus does. Attributes are those character traits.
Oh, okay.
So this is what Jesus does. And that 7, and if Jesus does that, then so are you have the same power, the same authority to do that as well, because of what Jesus said in regards to our believing as he believed. We would have this, we would do great what he did and even greater things. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes, that's clear.
Okay, anyone else? Because I want to say something else to this. Okay, why was Jesus able to do this? Why was he able to function this way? And why do we think that we can do what Jesus did if we truly don't believe what Jesus believed? Think about that. Jesus did not play with the priests in the synagogue. He said what he had to say to them as well as anyone else. Jesus did not go to church and play games with the church and then come back and speak to the people in a different way. Jesus said to the ecclesiastical leadership of his time, he spoke to them the same way, if not more harsh, that he spoke to everyone else. The reason it's so difficult for us to wrap our mind around doing it is because we are so involved with the church, even subconsciously, and as well as consciously now. Because when Jesus went to the synagogue and read the truth, what did they do to Jesus? They threw him out. So if you are not being thrown out of these religious settings, then the question becomes, are you doing what Jesus did? Because if you are not doing what Jesus did, you cannot expect to have to exercise the messianic attributes or the messianic traits, messianic character that Jesus exhibited when he was in the earth. Does that make sense to you guys?
You say thrown out of the religious setting.
When I say thrown out, I was thrown out of religious settings.
Yeah,
well, let me finish. I was thrown out of the association. I was thrown out of every place I went because of what I taught. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, I knew, the situation with you, but my comment is, I understand because of the knowledge that you had, and those are only one that they fear, because they fear that, and I understand, that the point with the time when you came, like when we had that class that time, your class had, well, they were in other classes, but when the word got out, the knowledge that we were gaining in your class, then everybody left the other classes and came and got in your class. And then when they got in your class, then the fear set in them because they was afraid that they wasn't going to have anybody to teach. So anybody they feel like you didn't come up against them. You was only doing what you was led to do, what you know to do. But now it's like nobody really has that knowledge that I see that's coming up against them, and they sure enough not going to throw nobody else out because they feel like all this religious stuff is drawing the people to them, which is really not. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I want to address that. First of all, there are none who can do that. There was one person who could have done that, but he chose not to. And that was the one who was that light standing in the pulpit that everyone saw. He chose to stay in the settings and teach the popular stuff. It doesn't matter whether he was teaching charismatic stuff or the stuff that is being taught right now in Baptist, Methodist churches, etc. Charismatic churches don't teach anything different than what's being taught in all the other churches, with the exception of speaking in tongues, laying on the hand, anointing with oil, but all the other teachings are the same as the church. And the goal of the church is to fill up the pews. But the goal of the charismatics is to convince you that you can be rich just like they are. So none of them have the capacity to teach the truth because they are not looking for it. They are looking for what makes them popular and put them in positions where people will look up to them and see them through the eye of adoration. However, there are those in the settings who are truly seeking truth. And let me give you an example. If you are seeking truth and you go into those settings and you say exactly what the truth is, and you say that pastors are not representative of what the truth is in the scriptures. If you say that I'm getting rid of my, I'm not going to do anniversaries anymore because that's not of God. I'm getting rid of all these auxiliaries because they are only organizations that divide people. And the only thing we're going to do is study the scriptures. And any song that does not coincide with the scriptures, we will not sing it, period. When you do things like that, that's what Jesus did. Does it take courage? Yeah, but in the beginning, you feel like you're foolish, I guess. But once you do it and you continue to speak in that way, people will come to hear you, but the ecclesiastical leadership will push you away from them. It will excommunicate you. It will threaten to take your license if you're a preacher, like they threatened mine. They would threaten to cancel your ordination like they threatened to cancel mine. They would threaten to remove you from any leadership position in that church, whether it is the president of the choir or whether it is the chief janitor. It doesn't matter. Is that understandable? Or is that clear?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless there are questions or comments, Ron?
Yeah, look at verse 6 and 7. And the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together. And a little boy will lead them, and the cow and the bear will graze. The young will lie down together. So it's making a point here, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. It's making a point to talk about the the younger. This is talking about the next generation, isn't it? It's talking about
Talking about you.
of course the animals here are talking about the animalistic nature of man. It's go into this a
No, no,
little
no,
bit,
no.
huh?
Okay, let me go into that. Let me go into that because this is speaking not of the animalistic nature of man. This is talking about
Uh-huh.
what will happen when Messiah brings harmony to the earth. Even the animals will coexist with each other.
Okay.
And those who are the righteous will be protected from the violence of nature itself, meaning that we are able to change. We are able to prevent disaster from happening.
Remember
Hello?
your phone buffing.
Oh, it's buffering.
Yeah,
What about now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So, am I making sense?
Yeah, it's
Ron,
making sense.
okay.
Yes, yeah.
I'll go into a little bit further. The reason I said it's talking about you is simply because Jesus said, not only will you do what I've done, but greater things. We are we are on the journey to bring harmony to the earth. The greatest thing that can be done for humanity, for the earth, and everything that exists in the realm of this type of consciousness, is for man to be in harmony with each other. And when that happens, everything will be in harmony with each other because of man being the dominant animal, the dominant energy in the earth. During the process, during the time on this journey, the more we stick to the journey, the more we are able to be protected from the violence in nature. Nature is violent because men are violent. What do I mean? We have not had a hurricane to come ashore. We deal with those types of things. It may bump into the coast, but the damage that they normally would have been doing when they came into this, they don't do that anymore. And when Sandy came through, I happened to be in Philadelphia, and some things were taking place there that involved members of my family, and I was telling them not to worry, this is what's going to happen. And there will not be tornadoes that comes from this hurricane, and Philadelphia will not be flooded. And that did not happen. I share this with you, not because it's something I did aside from anybody else knowing it, but others knew what I was doing. And I share that with you because if I did it and no one else knows it, then you'd be like, well, maybe you didn't. But this is something that was witnessed. So what I'm saying to you is this: I am no different than you, other than being the covering. That's it. I'm no different than you. You have the same opportunity to do what Jesus did, the greatest things that Jesus did, as I have. And that also has been proven through others. I hope you understand what I'm saying, and I'm hoping it's making sense. Questions?
It makes sense.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have one question, Rep. I might be wrong, but can you stand in the gap for another city or another state if something like that was happening? You understand what I'm trying to say?
I do understand what you're saying.
Okay, explain.
If, excuse me, if I had not felt it, I would not have been able to do it, neither would I try to do it. I did not feel that the intercession should be done for the storm that took place. And now I see the reason why the storms had to take place. There are several things that came out of that hurricane that's making things better for humanity. We look at the destruction. We look at the people who died. But keep in mind, some of the people, not all of them, some of them who died chose to stay there, and some could not get away because they didn't have the means. However, there was a community that was in the pathway of the hurricane, and they lost shingles from the top of the house, and one tree fell over, but that was it. Nothing has happened to them. Why? Because of the way the houses were built, and they were built based upon fighting climate change. They were built in a way that would preserve the earth. And now, since that happened, my desire is for insurance companies to force people to do that so everyone will have opportunity, so the prices will be affordable. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Now, to the intercession for other states. I was in Pennsylvania when that happened. If I am in that state, if I feel it, I do it. I do believe that what happened and the reason I was in Philly was for the purpose of those who were in my presence to see what was going on with the storm and hearing my saying to them what was going to happen and what was not going to happen. And seeing it happen, which strengthened them and gave them an understanding that I truly believe what I teach. Not only do I believe it, I act on what I believe, regardless of where I am. If I am not in that state and I don't feel it, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. I do believe that since South Carolina was the epicenter of everything destructive, then South Carolina has to be the epicenter of the reconstruction of everything that was destructive. Does that make sense? And not just to Charles, but to all of you.
Yeah. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Okay. Any other questions or comments, guys? Anybody? Okay. I wanted to take a brief look, and I don't know if this is a discussion worthy, but I something I couldn't let go of, I guess. When we were the other day, we were looking in 2 Samuel, the relationship that David has with Bathsheba, and we got to talking about the way women are viewed in the scriptures and are not viewed, and we talked about feminine and masculine energy, and one of the things that came from that, looking at chapter 11 of Second Samuel, Bathsheba name comes back as saying daughter of oath. And that sort of intrigued me because I thought and still think there's a lot more to that. So I kind of spent some time looking at that, and I just wanted to kind of go over it for just a minute. And if any questions or comments, just stop me at any time. And I think hopefully this will kind of make sense. The first thing that got my attention is from what I read, her name was changed from Bathsheba, from Bathsheba. The original spelling was Bathshua, and it was changed to Bathsheba, Bathsheba, because Sheba means seven. And 7 is a very holy number in the scriptures, and it is a special number to the Hebrews. So the attributes that you see in 7, being perfection, being complete, being full, and some other things. But if you look at First Chronicles chapter 3, and you don't have to turn there unless you want to, it tells the correct spelling of her name when it talks about the family of David, and it names her as having David having 4 children born to him in Jerusalem, and it spells her name Bathshua. Now I bring that up because that's interesting, because in Second Samuel and in First Chronicles, her name and her father's name are spelled differently, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I think the original meaning of her name, Bath, comes from the word, and this is the part that I think is talking about balance, and you have to kind of see this. The word BAT is feminine, means daughter. The counterpart for that is BEN, means son. So they both come from the same root, and Bat means daughter. So her first part of her name means daughter, but if you spell it the correct way, SHU means to save, and it's the way it's spelled in the Hebrew is YASHU, and it means to save or salvation. So I'm thinking this should have been translated daughter of salvation. That to me kind of and then you still look at that and you say, well, what's the significance of that? What does that mean? It was, if you follow their heritage and look at the Hebrew culture, fathers were very proud when they have sons. It meant that their lineage, that their name would carry on, and that was what things that was one of the most important things to them. One of the very special places in your society back then was a wife who could have children, a wife who had children. A daughter was endearing to a wife. Of course, the son was too, but the daughter was, because it meant that she had someone to bargain with. She had a bargaining chip. So now for lack of a better term, to enrich the family or enhance the family or broaden the family, in a sense, I have a daughter. Somebody's son is going to want my daughter. So these were, what I'm getting at is trying to show you is one was important, but no more important than the other one was in their society. So if you look at these two names, whether it's Bat or whether or not it's Ben, it's talking about having balance, bringing balance to your family. So one part of it is without, and the other part is within. What do I mean by that? The son brings a wife into my father's house in many mansions. Remember, we talked about that. So the son brings the wife, his new bride, rather, into this family. She becomes a part of that. The daughter, meanwhile, goes out and marries into another family. So she extends the family that way. That from an outward perspective, they're joined onto another Hebrew family. So this is a balance that these two names, just to show you that these two names come from the same root, son and daughter in the Hebrew. So the salvation part, or the daughter saves, is the part that I guess I'm still kind of working on, and I'm just wondering if anybody has any perspective on that, to look at that, or has anybody even thought about it. But I just thought that is it's trying to tell us something. I'm just not sure what yet.
Based on how you described, the Hebrew meanings, what I see in this is that David being a precursor to Yeshua, Jesus. David, this personality, let's not call him, David means beloved, is one of the meanings anyway, David, beloved. Suppose for a moment that David represents the attitude of one who seeks to apprehend the deliverance of our Creator in an unsavory way, meaning on their own terms, using their own methods, only to find out that it doesn't work because everything that comes out of it dies. However, when you are intimate with deliverance in the right manner, then something is birthed. And what is birthed is Solomon. So if we look at this that way, then suppose this is what it is, then would this not mean that every aspect that we studied about Solomon that is showing us that Solomon addressed the life that everybody lives? That's what comes out of deliverance, because it causes you to look at yourself, to be introspective in order for you to find yourself and become what you were created to be. Does that make sense?
Okay. So in your explanation, regardless of the seed, then, because of the I guess I'm looking at her name or her character, kind of cleanses the seed, because you mentioned David. I got it now. I got it. Because the first child dies, doesn't he?
Yes.
First child.
Yes.
Okay.
Now this is the kicker, Ron. Let me say this. So Solomon, one of the meanings of Solomon is covering. So we are looking at something that has been covered up. What is that? The things that we find out about ourselves during that introspection. Can you?
I got you. Okay. Questions or comments, y'all? Is this make sense to you?
There's something else I would like to say in regards to that. But first, I would like to know, as you have asked, questions or comments, please.
Does it make sense at all?
This is Vermel. For me, bits and pieces of it is making sense. It does resonate, but I still feel like I haven't quite come to the full understanding of Bathsheba. And I guess I still have questions about her name, meaning it means oath, right?
Well, that's what I was debating, because I don't know how they reached that conclusion based on the names. It's like I said, if you look in Second Chronicle, Second Chronicle 3, verse 5, it lists her down there with the correct spelling of her name. Her name was changed to, and this is something I got from a Hebrew text, something I looking at last night. Her name was changed to Sheba because Sheba means 7, and 7 is a magical number. Where they get oath from Sheba, I don't know. But if you look at the original name, Bathshua, S-H-U-A, it means, Bath means daughter, and Shua means to save or salvation. And so that's where I kind of researched and looked at that. And trust me, I'm not trying to change anything. I'm just trying to figure out where these things came from and what all this meant, because I didn't understand daughter of oath, and trying to trace that down. This is what I found.
Okay.
Well, suppose for a moment that daughter of the oath is simply saying the womb of the promise. An oath is something you take and commit yourself to, isn't it?
Yes.
So suppose it's talking about commitment to deliverance. You cannot manipulate deliverance. That's what David attempted to do, rather, and he died. Now let's take all the people out of it, okay? All the proper names, let's take them out.
Okay.
And let's tell a story based on all these meanings. If you get caught up in religious settings looking for deliverance from everything that you go through and everything that mankind is going through, and what you are receiving is not true directions as to the journey you should be taking. Rather than that, you are being entertained. Therefore, you end up coming down front to pray for the same things every Sunday, every revival. Not only that, but since what you are looking for is not directed towards bringing harmony to humanity, what happens is that the society gets worse. And when the society gets worse, there has to be someone or someone's raised up to mitigate that. So what happens? Now the search for or the love or the desire for deliverance is sought in the right way. So now the womb of this deliverance is impregnated with a true desire for humanity. And as a result of that, what is birthed is an understanding of humanity, of who humanity is. And when we look at who humanity is in terms of personalities, attitudes, etc., that's the introspection that we do. And doing that, we understand that there are things within us that we have to come to grips with in order for us to be litigators of the truth. And when we embrace the reality that we are totally incomplete and ignorant of the pathway, it is at that moment that deliverance begins to show up. Yahweh is deliverance, begins to show up. Yeshua is Jesus' name means salvation or deliverance, begins to show up. So we are in the process of deliverance. And who is being delivered? In order to deliver anyone from any situation, first of all, they have to desire to be delivered based upon their discomfort with it or some other reason. We are in a society where there is total discomfort, and people are open for a different way. And this gives opportunity to present in the macro a journey of truth that will bring those settings that are seeking, that are perpetuating rather, the false journey towards salvation, which is what men think it to be as opposed to what it really is. And here we are at this moment in time, seeing the process of harmony taking place, even though to your eyes, it doesn't look that way. To the eye, it does. Because in order to do this, to have people searching for a better way, everything that gives them discomfort must be exposed at the same time, so that you have a maximum amount of people seeking a better way. And right now, everything that can be exposed is being exposed. So does this make sense to you?
Yes, I understand it when I take the human picture face out of it. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Questions or comments, please? I need to know that it's making sense to more than Vermeer.
It's making sense to me. This is Shirley Browning.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I appreciate that explanation too. I had a question when you were talking, because it looks like, and this is going more on my thoughts of something that Audrey said or question she asked. What exactly did David see? Because he saw her beauty. Did he recognize balance, but he saw it through his eyes as opposed to his eye? Did he see? Because it looked like one thing to him, but it was far more than what he was actually seeing. Correct?
Hey, Ron, when you said that,
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking that David was looking at it from his eyes. I don't think he was looking at Bathsheba from his eye.
Yeah, that's my question.
This is
Okay.
it. This is what I see. I don't see David. Neither do I see Bathsheba. I see earth consciousness searching for deliverance in religion. And everything that religion offers are things you can see with your eyes. The pomp and the pageantry, the white gloves at the communion, the ushers, all of these things, uniformed things in the church setting are things that you see with your eyes, regardless of the denomination. What I see is where we were engaged in a journey looking for spirituality from things, looking to receive and understand the spirituality from things that we are shown with our eyes, as opposed to the eye. I don't see David, I don't see Bathsheba, I see us. Does that make sense?
I understand it now, Rev, since you put it that way.
Thank
It seems more simple and on point.
you. Anyone?
Yeah, I hope this made sense, guys. If you don't have any questions, if they have something, write it down. But then that's a lot of information.
And in addition to that, please understand this. When we look at what we say David did, what do we see? We see an abuse of a female. So when we travel that journey seeking to understand spirituality from things that we see with our eyes, we are being abusive to feminine energy because we are making every effort to force it to birth something that it cannot birth. Therefore, it dies. However, nothing is produced, nothing is brought into existence, and never shall be without feminine energy. The key to everything that exists is feminine energy. That's the key. And I do not understand now why is it that anyone can think that Jesus could have accomplished his mission being called rabbi and not having a female in his life? The feminine energy bursts everything. And I'm not talking about the physical child between the two. I'm talking about the birthing of spiritual understanding. Keep in mind that Jesus traveled with females constantly, interacted with females constantly. There has to be a respectful, positive interaction with feminine energy. If it's not, the seed will die. Does that make sense?
It does. I have a question, Pastor.
Go ahead.
So, when we, for instance, like if we're just talking with someone, we're having a intimate conversation. Are we giving birth to something when we like conversate with each other? And I'm just doing this physically. I'm looking at it that way for right now with the eyes. Are we intimate with each other, talking, you know, just having casual conversation? At that time, are we giving birth to something?
Yes. Every time we talk, we are giving birth. Every time we think, we are giving birth. We're attempting to anyway. Think about it.
So what?
When you're
So what
talking to
makes?
someone, I'm getting ready to tell you.
Okay.
When you are talking to someone, if you're talking with a friend, y'all have a casual conversation, you're birthing joy for each other, happiness, peace, calmness, serenity for each other. If you are debating something, it depends on how you are debating it. If you are in a violent debate or a debate that based upon I know more than you do, you are birthing confusion. If you are in a debate that we're simply asking questions about things that we don't see or understand, and you truly want to understand it, or then you are actually birthing peace for humanity. If you're talking about going to the mountains and you don't want to go to the mountains and someone insists on it, now you got an argument that's chaotic. If you want to go, and if you don't want to go, and the person who invited you go say, okay, that's fine. Now we're back to peace again. Does that make sense?
It does. So what aborts the baby? What makes that
Chaos.
that concept dies?
What happened is chaos and or making efforts to bring things into existence your way. Trying to make something happen your way. You will not be delivered based on what you think deliverance is. The only way you get deliverance is by understanding and embracing this what the spiritual deliverance looks like or what it is. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think for me, I couldn't see past Bathsheba and David because of the intimacy. The first thing you think about which religion teaches, you know, he had his friend killed, and then he and Bathsheba got together, blah blah blah. And I think that's a lot of times. That's the reason why a lot of times we cannot get the concept, because we're looking at it again, like we said previously, and tonight. We're looking at it with our eyes instead of really looking at it with our eyes. So now I see why that baby died. The first baby died. And then God allowed Solomon to be birthed, and a live birth, so to speak. So, and we cannot judge what we see. We can't judge what we see because we don't even know what's in the picture. We don't know what is a bigger picture is what I'm trying to say. So I got what you're saying now. You brought it home to me. I can relate now to the questions that Ron and Charles had asked earlier. But now I got it. At least I think I do.
If not, raise another question.
I will, but I'm seeing it.
Okay.
Go ahead. I was just saying, I'm beginning to see it. As Barbara said, to me, a layer has been pulled, unraveled or whatever from the onion. So I see it now.
Okie dokie. Ron?
Okay, where are we? Any other questions or comments? I have a couple other things in my head, and I don't want to bring about any confusion tonight. I think we've covered a lot of stuff already, and I don't want to introduce anything new. Is there anything else to grab our attention on this? Anybody? Do you have something you want to write down, if you will, or text it to me? It doesn't matter. Just make sure we all get this, because I think, I know I say this all the time, but we're in an extremely important place. We're where we are now is, I think, is critical, and oh yeah, make sure we see this.
Excuse me, Ron, this is Val. Ron, I have a question.
Okay.
So what is the meaning of the baby dying?
Pastor, you want to go over that part again, please? Good question, Val.
Yes. The baby dying is what happens every Sunday morning when people are searching for and understanding the spirituality based upon what they see with their eyes. I see you shouting, so the Spirit must be with you or on you. I hear you singing, and you have a melodious voice, and God is with you, and we are being delivered as you sing. And you leave, and you got the same thing that you had before you left. You come down front to pray. You try to lose a burden, and when you go back home and come back the next Sunday, you're praying for the same thing, which means that everything that you are receiving is dying. It has life in it, and that's the reason it is dying. And that is emblematic. I mean, the baby is symbolic of that. The death of the first baby is symbolic of that. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome, dear.
Good question. Anyone else?
Hey, Ron, did we ever
Yes,
get
sir.
what the name of Uriah means? And they from the Hittites, and what do that mean?
I didn't look up Hittites, but I thought we talked about Uriah the other day. I'm gonna have to look at my notes. I thought somebody gave us the meaning of Uriah, and I wrote it down.
Okay.
Now, finance is another thing. I got it here somewhere. Does anybody have Uriah? Because I remember talking about it the other day. Might have been Audrey said what the name meant. Is anybody looking that up while I look through my notes, please? Can't believe I'm not finding it. Excuse me.
Uriah means Jehovah is my light, or Yahweh is my light.
Yahweh is my light, yeah.
I was looking it up, but my phone's so slow. I'm sorry, Pastor. Thank you.
Yeah, we understand. Some people have phones that don't work properly. Okay. Hittite speaks of the descendant of Heth, H-E-T.
Yeah. Okay. Charlotte, does that help, man?
Yes, sir. It helped. My understand, the reason why he didn't he didn't lay with his wife, and the reason why he got put out in front in that war.
Yeah.
That's the reason, that's why the baby died. When we are in those settings, we are not respecting the feminine energy of Jehovah, Yahweh. We are making an effort to birth something that only Yahweh can birth, and that's deliverance. And every effort dies because there is no life in it. That's one of the greatest reasons the church is dying, because there is an Adam who stands in the gap for humanity. Does that make sense to you guys?
Absolutely.
Yes. I got a question.
I thought you
And
had
y'all
a
may,
question.
I didn't say that, but y'all may think this is far-fetched, but this thought just came to me. So is the church homosexual? And because it's a misogynist and it only deals with men the only one that can have power or can do anything. And I'm looking at it from...
That's not a far-fetched question. In order for you to understand what the current church is, you have to look at its root. Where did it come from? It came from Catholicism. And there are more incidents of homosexuality between priests, bishops, and kids than anywhere else I know of. And seemingly nothing happens. Why is it that can be prevalent in Catholicism? That can be prevalent in different individual churches, and nothing happens. Nothing happens because when you are disrespectful to the womb of Yahweh, only thing you can birth are those things that leads to death. Now, I'm not talking about homosexuality leading to death. The church is not only homosexual, it is heterosexual. It is everything that detracts us from understanding the spiritual nature of our essence. That is what religion, what the church had, what the church is. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's why there's no balance in religion. I got it.
Okay.
There cannot be balance if there's not life. The church is incapable of bringing about life because it doesn't recognize feminine energy. So that's why it's chaotic. Any other questions or comments? Well, I'm not going to keep you on the line just to keep you. I don't think it's a good idea. And if you guys agree with me to go to another subject right now, I think we'll let this kind of settle in us and see if we have any questions next time we meet. That sound good to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if there are no more questions or comments, we will say good night. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and look forward to Saturday, okay? Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.